Hello, everyone. I'm Sandra Bargman, and welcome to the Edge of Everyday, now at maximizeu.life and streaming on all your favorite podcast platforms. Are you a change maker? Do you walk between worlds, between cultures, between systems? If you answered yes to any of these questions, the Edge of Everyday is the place for you. In a nutshell, this podcast is about pushing boundaries and exploring rough edges. Through conversations and shared stories with friends and colleagues, it's my hope that we can begin to understand our edges. And what I mean by edges is those places where we are fearful, those places where we are resistant to change, those places where paradox and contradicting identities live in our beliefs and in our understandings, both individually and collectively. We live in edgy, challenging times. We cannot keep looking away from the ugly, from the difficult, and silence is no longer an option. Life isn't black or white, it's both, and I want to talk about that. I want to face the tension of paradox, and I want to engage in the hard conversations. I want to explore the rough edges between our light-filled brilliance and our dark, shadowy corners. Because the more we recognize our own edges and get real about them, the more we can help others to do the same. And that, I fully believe, can help to change the world. So, thanks again for tuning in. Today, we are live in the Hive with our special guest, actor, activist, and playwright, Joanna Rush. Joanna and I share similar experiences in our career trajectories. Our first chapter was spent performing. In our second chapter, we added becoming a seminary trained and ordained interfaith minister. And in our third act, we've layered on the roles of activist and political junkie, loudly sharing our own voice in our artistic expression. Loyal listeners may recall that I had Joanna on the Edge of Everyday podcast April of 2024 for the episode entitled The Edge of Artistry, Aegism and Activism, No Malarkey, during which Joanna and I talked about her most recent one-woman show, No Malarkey, directed by the late, great Lynn Taylor-Corbett. Joanna is masterful at mining both the trauma and the comedy from her life to explore the themes of rape, abortion, religion, feminism, ageism, climate change, and voting rights, to uplift, educate, and empower her audiences. It's episode 8, so you might want to go and listen to that compelling conversation. Joanna gloriously performed No Malarkey in my performance and salon space right here in the Catskill Mountains last summer. And I am grateful for our deepening friendship. In a recent phone conversation, we decided we needed to hold a series of conversations around the topic of how artists serve in challenging times, as in the very challenging times in which we find ourselves today. What is the role of the artist and the need for the arts in the rise of fascism? As Jill Medvedow, Director Emerita of the Institute of Contemporary Art in Boston, said, "The arts possess a truth-telling power to shape and narrate our shared history, a power to change whose stories are told and by whom." End quote. Artists are facing censorship, funding cuts, and fear under DJT's second term, as political repression reshapes the cultural landscape. How are artists of all ages and gender showing up to move the needle forward and to address the issues of today? Let's dive in. And without further ado, let's introduce our guest. Joanna Rush is a playwright, actor, dancer, interfaith minister, and author. Originally from New Jersey, she moved to New York City to dance with the famed Rockettes and went on to work as a dancer, choreographer, and actor on both coasts, on Broadway, off Broadway, and in regional theaters across the country, as well as in film and television. Joanna is a seminary trained interfaith minister and counselor and received ordination through One Spirit Interfaith Learning Alliance. As a playwright, she wrote Kick, It's Not How High, It's How Strong, formerly titled Asking for It, and has performed it off Broadway and in colleges and theaters across the United States. She was nominated for the Off Broadway Alliance OBA Award for Best Performance in a Solo Show. Her book, Kick, It's Not How High, It's How Strong, authored in 2016, is, quote, based on intimate reflections by Joanna Rush, a former Rockette. This powerful story of rape, betrayal, and redemption has taken the form of a renowned performance piece and now is available as a memoir with a dash of fiction thrown in. I love that. You can find Joanna's incredibly full CV in the show notes, and we will include her website and all of that at the end of our conversation. Welcome, Joanna Rush.
Thank you. Do I have to sing it back? Thank you, Sandra.
You inspire me to sing. Welcome. Oh, it's a pleasure to have you, Joanna. Thank you for agreeing to come on and for being excited to have this series of conversations. It's really powerful.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, I always, as you know, like to share how I know my guests, and you could go back and listen to episode 8, listeners, but and it will be more extensive. But real quickly, Joanna and I sort of learned of each other because we were both performers that had gone to seminary, and people who knew both of us were telling each other that we needed to know each other, but we really didn't. We just knew of each other and then followed each other on social media, and until very recently. Yeah. So I'm going to start with a question that I always ask, but I have two questions I like to ask all my guests, but I'm only going to do one because I'm really excited to dive into our conversation. But I think this first one is always so potent, and in light of our conversation, it's made me think about the identity that I lead with. Again, it's always evolving, this question. That's why I love it so much. What identity do you, Joanna Rush, lead with?
Actor.
I love that.
Yeah.
Creative. Yeah. So that's
That's
you walk through the world with that as sort of the most outward identity that you relate to.
yeah, and I think it informs everything else that I do
Mhm.
and everything.
Yeah.
Obviously writing, characters and all of that. It always comes from an acting place. And I think that's what I knew I wanted to do like early
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
life.
When you popped out of the womb.
When what? I'm sorry.
When you popped out of the womb.
Yes, I popped out of the womb in a very unlikely place, but I knew in my soul that was my calling. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I did too. And I love that answer because I think people who are actors, who are performers, it's a true calling. It really is a spiritual calling. And that's what, it's interesting. When I went to seminary, there were a handful of people that couldn't connect the dots between being an actor and a performer with becoming an interfaith minister and going on any kind of grand internal spiritual quest. And There was no way that I was able to explain that. It just made great sense to me. It was they were one and the same. It just had a different title. They were both ways of knowing oneself more deeply. And I think that's why I so agree with leading with actor. And of course, while I was doing the research for this, I was thinking, yeah, you lead as a creative too. I mean, because it does inform everything that you do,
Yeah,
Sandra.
yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So I want to create sort of a bridge between our last conversation, in which you were talking about no malarkey, and you were having all kinds of glorious success with it, and updating it, and then getting ready for the election, and then bam, Joe passes off the baton. So can you pick up the story? How did that move? What was that like? And then, then the election went the way it did. Tell the story of No Malarkey.
Yeah, no malarkey, and this is no malarkey. Um it was such a pleasure to do up until Gaza. And
Yeah.
I I mean, you can't take the love out of this work, you know. And I really felt because Joe and I were born the same week,
It's a
and
very
I
funny
just
show, people.
and I felt it. And also, he was raised Catholic, and he was like all the guys I grew up with, and I felt an affinity towards him. And in the beginning of Gaza, I was like, oh, he'll get over this. He's got to see Netanyahu,
Netanyahu, yeah.
Netanyahu, right. He's got to he's got to grow, you know, and get rid of that. I just so it started to taint the work a bit. And Lynn Taylor-Corbett, my director of 30 years, really, she directed four of my plays, was she was very busy with her Distant Thunder musical that opened off Broadway around the time that Joe and Kamala and this whole thing was happening. And she was dying. And so basically, I let go of the no malarkey between Gaza and then Kamala and Lynn. I let go of no malarkey,
Mm.
and it's in somewhere in my computer. I don't know, but the whole thing makes me sad. And as a matter of fact, I'm doing as minister and actor, I'm doing a celebration of life for Lynn in the fall for a Broadway version.
Oh,
And I know, and I
oh,
already did
I'm
one
so,
for the family.
oh,
She's an
Joanna.
incredible, incredible human being.
I'm
And
so sorry for your loss.
yeah, and I was thinking, and then her son Sean Taylor-Corbett asked me if I would do a piece from one of our plays. And the last thing I would think I would think of would be no malarkey. But I know Lynn died a week before DJT was inaugurated. She did say many times, I can't go past this. And I forgot to mention, she dealt with 38 years of cancer. So,
Oh,
um, yeah, so she worked through it. I don't think she missed a day of work. She was an amazing person. And anyway, I thought, you know what she would like me to do? And I feel very connected now. Um, I think she would like me to do the section on Joe, where I stand up for Joe, because I know she would be so alarmed about how he's being treated with the cancer.
yeah.
And also we had conversations during the administration, the Biden administration, when we were working on the piece, we had conversations about how the the destructive the things people were saying about Joe and investigating his son, and they knew he lost two children, and it just was. so painful.
Yeah, devastating.
And so that's what I'm going for her celebration of life. I'm going to do the scene where Joe falls off his bike.
Oh,
You know,
that's
and the guy makes fun of Joe for falling off his bike, and I yell at the guy, um, should I do
yes.
it? The guy says, what does he say? Oh, I was standing behind him. This really did happen. I was standing behind this guy at the checkout counter at Walgreens. I was getting my shingle shot, and this guy was at the counter, and he turned around and he yelled, "Let's go, Brandon!" And I didn't say anything. And then he turned, and then he says, "Fucking guy fell off his fucking bike." And I said, "Yes, but did you notice how quickly he got up?" And the guy says, "A lot quicker than you, Grandma." "Oh, yeah, dick brain. Can you do this?" I think Lynn would really like
Yes, they would. Oh,
it.
and Lord knows in times of
Thank you. And,
grief,
and now they're so mean to him about the cancer. I just can't.
yeah. No, it's they're just well, that's the fun for them. The cruelty we have learned is the fun. And there is no bottom to this well, and it's incomprehensible for me. And the Tapper's book, like for real? Well, that's what media is focusing on. We have a felon. Dismantling democracy. And let's talk about Joe Biden's health. Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole any farther.
yeah,
That's a separate podcast. And not one I don't even want to amplify that any more than this. Ugh.
yeah.
But yeah, that'll be wonderful. And thank you for sharing that. And folks, if you're just listening, you have to go and watch the video because she did the kick. She did the kick right here, live on video, on the podcast Edge of Every Day. I love it. Okay, so you said you don't know where the state of no malarkey is, and maybe it has had its life. I mean, I know that it was very no malarkey is very connected to the Irish, to the Catholic, to that whole and certainly the administration that we have now is not to be celebrated in comedy. Although I'm sure it's great fodder for comedy for a lot of people. I rest assured. I just haven't watched any because I refuse. Um, but so what is on the docket for you in terms of your sharing your own voice? Um, uh, and what do we talked a little bit about this in our pre-chat and the idea for this about the joy of being an older woman and finding the courage to really share one's strong voice in our artistic expression. So, what are your thoughts on that? How has that journey been for you? And what is percolating now for you in terms of what political comedy and statement are you wanting to make right now?
Yeah. I'm really glad you asked that. And you said something, uh, it went out of my head. That's not because I'm old, it just went out of my head. Something that you just said that was really interesting. But um, well, I've had to change a lot. I mean, I always look for the humor. It's like the edge, I always look for the humor in the darkest places. And as you said, I've written about and performed about rape and religion and all kinds of things. Um, Lately, since, well, right before the election, it's been really hard for me to find the humor in
Yeah.
what's going on now. It's been actually so painful.
Yeah.
Um, as a matter of fact, well, I did, excuse me, I did two readings for Writers for Democratic Action of Sinclair Lewis's Pulitzer Prize winning play from the 30s
Yes.
called It Can't Happen Here. We did one in August, and I thought we did it in New York, and but they did it all over the country. And I thought, well, we're preaching to the choir, but in August before the before the election. But people were really, it wasn't that anything was new to them, um, but they were really fearful. The people in the audience were really concerned. I remember one man saying, it's not that it's not just if he gets in, it's not just that horribleness, but it's also I don't want to live with people like that. I don't want to live in with Trumpism.
Yeah.
And anyway, that was August, and then I was really struggling to write and everything, and I am an Irish citizen. Did I tell you that?
You did.
Probably
So
right. It's
dual citizenship.
dual. And so we had another reading on October 27th in New York of It Can't Happen Here. But before that, the leading up to the election was so stressful.
Yeah.
And I got my citizenship many years ago, thinking that, we were headed for some rough times and I'd better have a plan B. But so we left for Ireland in October, and it was going from that Michigas into pure love. Just first of all, no guns,
Yeah.
but love and storytelling and beauty and
Myth making and fairy tales. Yes.
yes, we
Yes.
drove along the Wilder
Ceremony and
Lane.
ritual. Yes.
Just awesome. And I
Mm.
had to come back for this reading on October 27th. I'm sure that date will ring a bell with you. It was the anniversary of the Nazi rally in Madison Square Garden in the 30, not six, was it?
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wasn't alive then, but it was that anniversary. And I stayed in New Jersey with friends and took the train in on the day of the reading to Penn Station. And when I came upstairs, it was a sea of red.
Yeah.
And
Couldn't have fathomed that how people would want to show up for this and celebrate that
oh,
day.
it was,
Just
and
devastating.
then the cheap, chintzy stands hawking all the crappy souvenirs or whatever it is they buy.
Yeah.
And so walking out into 8th Avenue, my first thought was, oh my God, my city, oh my God. And then as I made my way uptown, what was really the most horrifying were how many children were with them. As if they were going to a basketball game. All
Right.
these kids and all everybody in like this kind of mood, like a game. Jesus. So anyway, I went and I did the reading, and then I wanted to and then I was going to Connecticut. I'm always on the road. I was going from the reading to Connecticut to pick up my car. And I wanted to get to Grand Central Station before the crowd let out at Penn Station. And because anyway, I didn't make it by the time I got to Grand Central, they were starting to filter in all these young men in the whole red outfit with the red thing.
Yeah, the red cap, make America
And the
great
train was full of it.
cap. Wow.
Yeah. And there was a young black woman sitting across from me, and we were the only two in the car in that car. Well, the car was it was the Connecticut kind of the upscale Trumpists.
Right.
And
The
and
ones
she
who are
were
just in it for financial reasons, right?
exactly.
I don't care who gets trampled. I just want my tax breaks. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
don't
she
go.
and I were
Don't go low.
communicating.
Oops, too late.
We were communicating with our eyes, and
Ugh,
we were clearly saying, "I've got your back. I've got your back." And she got off in Stanford. But anyway, that was such a nightmare after, spending the month in Ireland. And then we went back to Ireland because we could not be here for the inauguration, for the
Yeah.
coronation or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
And Lynn, and then I had a friend on the West Coast really ill, and Lynn on the East Coast, and Lynn checked out the week before.
Yeah. She said,
Yeah,
"No, I'm not sticking around for this shit show."
yeah.
Yeah, it's well, and you and I have spoken. I'm not sure where you are today in terms of moving. Um, I have friends who are going. I have some friends who are gone. I have some friends in the process of buying. Some friends contemplating it. My husband and I, we have not felt the call to move. And I don't know that it's fueled by any desire to stay here and resist, although that's what I will be doing. I think it's really more fueled by the fact that I feel that where I'm located is in a healthy place and a good place, and where I can remain creative and still continue to work in my little venue and to get into the city and to keep creating and getting my voice out there as creatively in a way that's artist led, artist inspired, and shared. I mean, I remember watching your show thinking, I'm so proud of that woman to do step into stand up like in your third chapter. And I mean, it's of course you were always a comedian, and I'm sure you did lots of comedic roles, and I've seen some of the stuff that you have on your YouTube, or that's on YouTube. I don't know if it's your own channel. But to stand up freaking comedy, like, you know what? I'm in my third chapter. I'm Sandra. You're too long of tooth probably for most of the roles you have yet to play that you want to. Go and write something. Go and do something for yourself. And it is this age where you feel emboldened to speak up in a way that I know for me, I can't speak for you. I probably am speaking from you, but I know for me, I have never been. I mean, I am scary vocal about the patriarchy, and God bless my husband. Goddess bless my husband. He's like, "Whew, yes, I know, but you've been in charge for long enough, you people. It's the, it's the tides. The change is coming. Tides are turning. Rains are being taken over. Get used to it." No, seriously, no. I mean, but it has crossed my mind being inspired by you to really do actual stand-up comedy, and maybe do it, not necessarily focus on my sadness around democracy, but really do it around the fall of patriarchy. Because in all honesty, that's the overarching umbrella. All this other stuff, democracy or the fall of it, authoritarianism, the war machine, predatory capitalism, that's all, thank you, patriarchy. And that's what needs to come down. But anyway, I digress. I want to focus on you. Well, no, not really. That wasn't a digress. But I want to focus on, so yeah, I know that you're doing you're doing TikTok. I love this. You're starting to do comedy on TikTok. I'm like, yeah, go, grandma. I want to do it too. A second grandma on TikTok. I'm like, yeah. How has that been for you?
Oh my God. I love it now. Well, and I don't know what'll happen tomorrow, but it was so hard, so far removed from, I don't know how my brain really got any of it, but my nephew is works for TikTok, and
Oh
he's
my.
so lovely, and he tried to teach me. He's in California. Well, now he's in China, but he's wherever he is. He coached me for as much coaching as I wanted, I still can't tell like all those little things, and I can't tell followers and likers and all this stuff. I have no idea. But so I because I couldn't come up with a play, I mean, because I'm too distracted with everything else,
Yeah.
and I just try and keep my sanity. Um, I decided well, I didn't decide. My friend Walter Willison, who is he really is
Your
directing this.
stage husband.
My my work husband, right? He is directing this. It's called TikTok monologues. And I don't know if they're going to string
Yes.
together because I have a booking, so I have to do it. I don't know how they're going to come together, but after we finish this, I'm going to get right on that. Um, but I
Love this.
love TikTok. It's not only I love my experience of doing TikTok, but people telling their stories are so moving,
Yeah,
right?
it is. It's funny. I I got onto TikTok and I'm fully addicted now. I mean, I like watch it every single day. Um,
Right.
and a few times a day. And completely admit that. I'm not proud of it, but there we have it. Um, I'm clearly not proud of it because I'm announcing it here. But a girlfriend of mine, my dear friend Leslie Michaels, who is no longer with us, she wrote the book On the Shoulders of Mighty Women, and she asked me to. I was a contributing author to it. She pulled me into my title of author. Glorious friend, but she out of nowhere says, "You know what? You know what the perfect platform for you is TikTok." And and I was like, "What?" Like never looked at it, thought about it. And in my mind, it was very like young Kardashian wannabes talking about makeup. And, and by all means do that if that's what floats your boat, but it doesn't float mine. And I was like, no, that's for kids. And she said, no, no, just get on it. Just check it out. Start an account and just check it out, and then we'll talk. Well, I'll tell you within 10 minutes, not even. I was like, oh, I get it. And I'm following political people and I'm following comedians and journalists and historians. And yeah, and I have sort of my junk too. I like homemade cleaning products and cleaning and and upcycling furniture and thrifting. But yeah, I mean the amount, I mean unbelievable amount of academic information and research right there on TikTok. So when people make fun of TikTok, I'm like the first to be like, "Oh no, no, you've clearly never been on it." You know.
Right.
So I
Right.
love this, the TikTok monologues with Joanna Rush.
I'm just loving it. And Walter said, he said, first of all, he told me what I had written was not a play. So I thank him for that. But before that, he was saying, you write a play and then you have all this, and you're alone and you write the play, and then you have all this effort that to put into getting an audience. He said, now you have to get an audience, get a following, get people to know you. Then when you put on your play, you have an hopefully they come out. I don't know, but yeah, but it makes sense. I mean, it's a big switch,
Oh,
a way of
completely.
thinking, but I think we have to be
Meet the
like that. We have to
times.
be able to turn on a dime right now.
And well, that's the power of the artist. That's the power of the artist. They do turn on a dime. And they are really capable and very gifted in that category. And I love the idea of, with the barrage of scary shit that reading about what's in the big beautiful bill, all the stuff that's hidden in the bill, to get on TikTok and to do a quick little blurb, like boom, that addresses it. It fulfills a creative urge. It fulfills the sharing of the voice urge, the getting your voice up and out in the world to inspire others to do the same. It really ticks all the boxes, and not in a big way, in a way that you can handle in these challenging times, like smaller bites. Totally get
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah, and the way you can handle that's exactly right. Like the two people that just jumped out of me this week is a young woman who talked about she's very young, she's like 20 something, and she talked about she would never be able to have a baby. She wouldn't be able to afford to have a baby. And she's really very empathetic person and she would be a great parent. And she would watching her. It was just heart-wrenching.
yeah.
And it just made me think, what the fuck are we doing to our young? It's just so it opens us up. I mean, yes, we have a lot to share, but we have a lot to take in and to grow with. And the other thing, and he started following me today, is a farmer. So um he just simply tells his story and he's in the middle of Iowa or something. And just
I've seen him. I think I know who you mean.
right, he's getting known. Yeah.
And trying to just share how you voted against your best interest. And this is why, as a farmer, and let me break it down. And I'm one of you. So, there's no need for name calling and for not understanding that I have the exact same goals and needs as you do. So it's not liberal versus conservative. It's human being, and this is our world, and this is how it's being affected by this corrupt administration that is not doing anything that they said they would do for you, that you voted for.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah. And I think it was you who said no wonder they're trying to get rid of TikTok.
Yeah, totally.
It's just opening hearts right and left, I think.
Yeah. Well, and people are, the community, which is, of course, what we need in these challenging times most of all. It's a community building in its way. It's community building. And like we've already said, both you and I, it's dissemination of information. What I have learned on TikTok is immeasurable about politics, about history, about DEI, about white supremacy, all of it as much on TikTok as I have read anywhere else. The people that I've been able to find and to follow and to listen to and to hear recommendations of books and this and then videos, it's been extraordinary. And yeah, it's really contributed to this political junkiness of ours.
Thank God we have it.
Yeah.
When my friend Betty Ann was in the hospital in LA, I was out there, and her mother is 98, and she was flying back and forth from St. Louis, and she said when she was growing up, because we worry about the dumbing down, and I mean, thank God we have TikTok and people can go there for information because they're taking so much out of schools and everything. And Thelma, her mother, who's 98 and grew up in Missouri, I think, said that the teachers used to teach what they were supposed to teach. And then they would say, but this is what really happened. And they would, she said, somehow we got our history. But they
Wow.
didn't have, anybody looking in the classrooms or, there was,
Breathing over like we do today.
yeah.
Well, this
And
is
I
a
guess
great.
that's what teachers will have to do today. I mean,
Oh,
you know.
totally. Well, and with the arts funding and the kids programs being unfunded, it's just jaw-dropping. If nothing else, if there's somebody in the Midwest that voted for Trump and they don't care about the National Endowment of the Arts, they don't care about going to the Smithsonian. What they probably do still care about is an after-school program that's been funded by it, that their kid is a part of. Their kid
Yeah.
sings in their little choir. You know, that I mean,
Yeah.
it's just well, what listeners, what inspired us to even go down this path and to have it morph into these what I hope are many conversations with you, Joanna, is that Joanna reached out to me about something that she felt wasn't being discussed as much as it should be. And that was the tech bros and how, the whole how Elon Musk and the tech bros were taking over. And where are my notes on that? Where are your little notes? Yeah, the technate of America. This Elon Musk drawing on the ideas of his maternal grandfather, Joshua Norman Haldeman, the key proponent of the technocracy movement, which started in the early 1930s in the US, then spread to Canada. It proposed the creation of the technate of America. This would do away with borders, merging the US, Canada, Mexico, Central America, and Greenland into a single nation under a regime of engineers and technicians. Yeah, that we have moved into the we are no longer obviously in the industrial age, we're in the technology age, and that we don't need countries, we need corporations, and that we need to we need to become consumers of which company we want to be a part of, which government we want to buy into, which tax structure we want to buy into. I mean, it's bizarre stuff that like the nation state is over in this philosophy. And Peter Thiel and what Yarvin is the name?
Curtis Yarvin.
Curtis Yarvin is, the big brain behind the pushing or one of them, and has mentored Peter Thiel, who mentors our very own hillbilly VP, JD Vance, of many names. Yeah. And to see all the tech bros in line at the inauguration was just jaw-dropping. I could not watch the whole thing. As an American, I felt I had to watch, but I of course couldn't deal with it, and I turned it off. But I did watch for a second, more than a second. But yeah, and the concern that people weren't talking about that, and how can I mean, is this something that you feel like you can do on your TikTok? I mean, I think that the fear now is that if there's anything out there that Meta gets a whiff of that's anti-Trump, anti-tech bros, I mean, the AI that's culling and curating and pulling out all of these comments and likes and people who are resisting is bizarre and creepy and quite frankly scary. Like the capability of sussing out who's resisting is really throwing people into enormous dysregulation and anxiety and fear. And I just found I'm going to plant another seed before. I just found the name of in today's research, Artistic Freedom Initiative. Artistic Freedom Initiative. It's artisticfreedominitiative.org, and it is led by immigration and human rights attorneys. AFI facilitates pro bono immigration representation and resettlement assistance for international artists at risk. Is this
Oh,
not phenomenal?
yeah.
Dedicated to safeguarding the right to artistic freedom, AFI was founded on the notion that artists are uniquely situated to positively and powerfully affect change, provided their voices can be heard. As artists are increasingly censored, imprisoned, restricted from moving freely across borders, tortured, or even killed, it's more critical than ever that we safeguard the right to artistic freedom and zealously champion the courageous artists who exercise it.
Wow. AFI, right?
Yeah. Artistic Freedom Initiative.org. And of course, people listening, that'll be in the show notes.
Oh, right, right, right.
But
Um,
but yeah, I mean the how do I mean how are tech bros? Who's making what kind of art is being created now that deals with that? What artists? I mean, the art only artists that I'm deeply familiar with who are speaking up right at the moment are not uh, attacking anything in particular other than Trump himself. Like Bruce Springsteen or Taylor Swift or Neil Young, but just the corruption in general of just the moment to moment corruption and grifting of this entire
yeah. Um,
administration. But I mean, in terms of writing plays and in terms of, I think people are resurrecting like the reading that you just did. I think people are resurrecting maybe some older pieces that resonate. Nothing's popping to my mind off the top of my head. I just read something that's coming to Broadway. I can't recall it. Second we hang up with each other, I'll probably remember it.
a revival coming?
Yeah, it's a
Oh, yeah.
revival of something that resonates with the times. But yes, but new work, new voices, new artistic stories being told that really push up and resist against what's going on right now. Um,
Right.
and I'm
Um,
I'm I'm a little shocked at how it feels as though the Democratic Party in general, and like my husband who was in the city the other day, and he's like, I went by Trump's building, his big building there in Midtown, and he said no one was in front of it. No one was. There was no signs, no nothing. No one was protesting, like not a
oh,
soul.
really?
Just international people taking pictures of it. And I thought, have we given into obedience that much? I mean, I don't have that sense, but I could be very wrong.
Well, yeah, I think I mentioned to you the documentary that I saw about the 60s. It was called Far Out, and these hippies that, just people like us, but hippies, um,
Of
moved
their
from the
time.
city where there were Vietnam protesters, and they moved up to the country and they worked the land and everything. But they were the start of the nuclear um, putting the my language putting the kibosh on the nuclear reactor that was supposed to go in New Hampshire. It
Right.
started there, and then that group of people managed to attract some musicians,
Mhm.
and they did a concert in Battery Park City with 20,000 people.
Wow.
And that's if Bruce Springsteen and Taylor Swift would get together for June 14th, that would
15th,
be
it would be
something.
off the charts. And
And
with
and
Neil
Bono
Young.
and others,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, it's going to take something huge like that. There was one quote that I saw that was like something about, oh, this was every authoritarian who successfully destroyed judicial independence did so because civil society failed to unite in time.
Yeah.
This is from Adam Bonica, a
Can you read that again?
political. And then he said the key difference, whether people mobilized.
Mm. Can you
So
read that one more time?
that, yeah, he said every authoritarian who successfully destroyed judicial independence did so because civil society failed to unite in time. Then he said the key difference, whether people mobilized. Yeah, that was in Heather Cox Richardson's
Right.
letters from an American yesterday. But
Yeah. which I read pretty religiously in the morning, first thing in the morning. That's a great way to wake up.
Yeah, she's a good early morning read, and I
Yeah,
even
okay.
like the days that she takes off.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, oh, can I take off too? Okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Just
It's
some
funny
light
because,
reading.
I don't know how you, well, like starting out as actors, I mean, it's so much about work. Well, it's about the work, of course, but it's also about work and success and getting a series and doing this and doing that. And now it's of course that, but I mean, it's such a bigger
Yeah.
stage that we're called to work on.
Well, that gives me a great seg to read this quote that I have here and to bring today's conversation to a conclusion. It is by no means the end of our conversation, listeners. I have thoroughly enjoyed beginning to go down this rabbit hole with you, Joanna, and I'm looking forward to many more on the Edge of Everyday podcast with our special series about how artists serve in times of challenge. How are we able to move the needle forward for the change we need to see? What is our contribution? So I'll read this quote. Theater is the confluence of personal grief, public debate, and historical moment. This statement has stayed with me perhaps because it encapsulates the profound impact theater can have as a catalyst for political reflection and change. Theater is the confluence of personal grief, public debate, and historical moment.
Wow.
Much to think about, much more to talk about. Joanna Rush, I thank you so, so much for being on the Edge of Everyday podcast. I can see you have one more thing you want to leave with our listeners before we conclude.
Yeah. Get out there. Let's see each other out there.
Yeah, let's just
Big group
exactly
hug.
get out there. Big group hug,
We can
support.
do this.
We can do this. We have
We
it.
have to do this.
We have to, but it takes action. It takes action, and we have grown fat and bubbled here in the United States. And I can attest to that. I've been in a New York City bubble. I had no idea until 2015 how where we were. So,
Yeah.
we can all wake up. We can all admit that every single one of us has contributed to this in our own way and begin to take steps to educate ourselves, to wake ourselves up, to put our voice out in the world, no matter how big or small, and to share with others. And that is the charge
Hmm.
of this series. So, well, it's a charge period here in the United States.
Yeah.
Well, it's also global.
It's global. Yeah, it's
We're not
global.
alone here. Well, on that note, I thank you, Joanna. You can find Joanna at joannarush.com. Yeah. And all of her links are going to be in the show notes. And again, anything that we discussed um, in our conversation today will also be in the show notes. And stay tuned for our next conversation between Joanna and I about how artists serve in challenging times. Thanks everyone for listening. Remember, you are always at the edge of the miraculous. Until we speak again, take good care.
Thank you.